a lot of entrepreneurs have a tendency or personality traits to just outwork and outprove the thing that they're doing to everybody else. Easily fall into the trap of just constantly working and the hustle mentality. Who said things had to be that way? Certain individuals work significantly less but achieve more than most people would. You've probably seen or at least heard of like the hustle culture. It's the no days off mentality. Like I actually saw this on a t-shirt the other day, which is crazy. Or that you like the only way to get ahead is to constantly pull all-nighters, only to then get up at like 5 a.m. to start the whole thing over and again. And I'll be totally honest, I fell for this way of doing things when I first started out my first company back in 2017. And there's probably, like, I don't know for sure, but like, there's probably a couple of reasons why I ended up following this particular path. And I think the first one was, if I think back to like my thought process at that time, it was I really wanted to prove to everyone, for no other reason than just proving to everyone that I could do this thing and build a business online, even though there was zero evidence that I could do this. No one in my life that I knew at that time had ever created an online business before. I think a lot of people that probably knew me back then might have thought that I'd probably lost my mind a little bit in doing what I was doing after the decisions I'd taken to get to that point. But yeah, there was an element of I'm just going to get this done. I'm going to prove everyone wrong, and I think that's probably one aspect of like why I ended up falling into like the hustle mentality and just constantly work. And after spending the last couple of years like looking at myself, I also now realize that I have a tendency to overwork to prove that I'm good enough to others, but not just others, myself. And it's literally been the last 6 to 9 months where I'm slowly picking away at why I do these things and why I act like these things. And it's been super interesting. Like I appreciate like the ability to be able to access a different level of awareness about myself, and it does answer a lot of questions as to why I have done the things that I've done. And I don't think that I'm an outlier in this case. I actually think this is fairly common within business owners and entrepreneurship in general. I do think a lot of entrepreneurs have a tendency or personality traits to just constantly outwork and outprove the thing that they're doing to everybody else. I don't think I'm unique in that aspect. I do think it's quite common, which is why I think like a lot of entrepreneurs easily fall into the trap of just constantly working and the hustle mentality. So yeah, as I mentioned, after the last couple of years looking at myself, I realized that I have these tendencies and these traits, but this will also likely show up. But yeah, now I have an awareness to recognize this, unlike before when I had no idea. So that the level of awareness I have around this now is totally different to what it was like 2017, 18, 19, even up to 20 and 2021. Totally different aspect now. And as I mentioned, like on the face of it, it does kind of sound logical. The more you hustle and work hard, the bigger and better like the rewards and outcomes. And it's also, like you've probably noticed this yourself, it's also a big movement online that's attracted a lot of attention, mostly because I think a lot of entrepreneurs have a tendency to like overwork and to just outwork everybody else. Yeah, so probably from around mid 2017 to mid 2018, the volume of hours I was putting in during those 12 months was crazy. It was not like anything I'd ever experienced before. And it wasn't too long after this that I literally burnt out. And I ended up making some crazy decisions because I just couldn't face doing what I was doing at that time. One of the things I did, I deleted an email list of over 10,000 people, which is interesting. I think I ended up shutting down that company not that long after. I just couldn't face doing what I was doing. I had to take some time like off and away. My body had literally felt like it had seized up when I even thought about doing the thing that I was doing. So yeah, it was just not great. It wasn't a good place. My ability to think beyond a 24-hour period was non-existent. I was back into thinking like on the evening of some nights, I would just be at that point where I was like, okay, what do I need to do tomorrow? And then never really thinking beyond that because my capacity to think had just kind of been obliterated. My sleep pattern was out. I actually stopped exercising, which is something I'd been super consistent in for 10 to 12 years prior to that. Health and well-being kind of suffered as a result. And yeah, my overall fitness and health pretty much slowly declined throughout the space of, say, 12 to 18 months after that. And yeah, you'd think that would be enough for me to learn, but nope. The other more recent time was at the end of 2020, and my agency had just started at the beginning of that year, pretty much, at least officially. And this was our first full year. We'd grown quite fast. And because I still had the same mentality, which was just to work, 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 and just like continue to do the things I'd always done and continue to follow the path that I only knew at that time, which was just to keep on working, just continued to that mentality, still back working 7 days a week, working like as many hours as possible to do all of the things. I was working so hard, like what I consider to be difficult and challenging is I was working so hard in the day-to-day stuff during that time that I literally couldn't see the bigger picture. It's only now, like in the last 12 to 18 months, it's actually the last 18 months where you get to see things from a different perspective and a higher level. And when you're busy doing day-to-day stuff, because you're constantly working and hustling, like to prove something to someone or yourself, you can't see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture for me at that time was that I clearly needed highly skilled team members to come in and help. And I missed that macro view entirely. Like I probably like dragged on certain aspects within my business at that time, which didn't need to happen. If I just paused and took a breath and just kind of analyzed what was happening, it would have been super simple to see what needed to happen. But I continued to just go down that path of just doing what I'd always done and just continue to work, not actually looking at the bigger picture. And the other aspect of all of this, in this particular example, was that there's a couple of things. It robbed myself of the best work that I could deliver because I was constantly tired and fatigued. I couldn't think clearly. It meant that I couldn't be at my best for the team members at that time, my clients, or the people in my life. So it just had a massive ricochet into every aspect. It wasn't just like a little bit of work aspect that was impacted. It was everything. Slowly and surely, it just kind of bled out into all major aspects of my life. And at the end of 2020, I pretty much ended up having to take like a month to 6 weeks off entirely. And it was at that point when I kind of came around after that point, I was like, that is never happening again. And I made a promise to myself that would never happen again. And slowly but surely, since that period, I've kind of stepped away from the hustle culture and looked for ways to make entrepreneurship, running businesses, creating new projects, running new projects. I've looked for ways to make it enjoyable, fun, and easier. Because ultimately, like, who said things had to be that way? There are other ways. There are probably individuals that you know right now and companies that you know right now that certain individuals work significantly less but achieve more than most people would. And their businesses achieve more than most people would. So there has to be a different way. And I'll share exactly what that is like in a moment. But the reason why I'm sharing this is I don't think any entrepreneur needs to really experience that. Maybe there's some lessons for some individuals in walking that path. I know there was for me. But if me sharing this can help people skip that part, I think that would be a win for everyone involved. I don't think anyone needs to experience that, like either experience that I mentioned, the one in 2017 and the one in 2020. I don't think there's any need to do that. And over the last couple of years, I've seen firsthand, like a lot of entrepreneurs that I personally know and indirectly know have to step away from multi-million-dollar businesses because they've burned themselves out. And this I actually saw this quite a lot in last year. There was 2 or 3 individuals at pretty much the same time, independent of each other, different business owners. Yeah, they had to take time away. Some of them handed over their companies to somebody else, and others just literally had to step away from the entire thing. And I just thought that there has to be a different way. There's no way that entrepreneurs and business owners can create these things and help these people, but then in the background, like suffer and struggle themselves with overworking, fatigue, and just burnout. And I just decided that that's not the route for me. And at the turn of 2021, I decided that the way to do this by making it more enjoyable, fun, and easy is to work smarter, not harder. And it was around this time that this was the start of me beginning to create firm boundaries for myself in terms of when I work, when I have time off, and then like there's no gray area, it's either on or off. And having time off completely away from the laptop, like nothing to do with work, and also looking to start approaching what I was doing from a business owner's perspective rather than a hustle. So that shift helped a lot. It was like, who do I need to be to run a business? Is it somebody that's constantly working and hustling to achieve stuff and get stuff done? Or is it the state or the individual or the thinking of an individual that makes really smart decisions at like the most effective times? And I thought that's the way to continue to build, and that's the route to go. So that's kind of like my big shift. And I think that is a key for like anyone listening. It's like, who do I need to be to show up in my business to actually grow it? Is it someone that's hustling, or is it somebody that makes like really good decisions at the right time for everyone involved? And I think it's that. And it's helped over the last year to 18 months, coming up to 2 years. I feel more energized than ever before, and I see things from an entirely different perspective. So that's kind of my intention for sharing this today is hopefully somebody, most of you who are listening to this, like there's no need to do these things. Like hopefully you can learn from both of my lessons and not walk that particular path. And I hope you found some value in this, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.